Hey there, busy parents, and welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just be completely real for a second. When you're constantly juggling work, household chores, that never-ending mountain of laundry, and just life's daily chaos, having an quote-unquote easy child feels like an absolute lifesaver, right? You probably breathe a massive sigh of relief because they just kind of go with the flow. But today, we're going to explore a topic that might just flip literally everything you thought you knew about parenting right on its head. We're diving into why having an incredibly low-maintenance, super cooperative kid might actually be a hidden warning sign for their future well-being. If you've ever bragged about how easy your kid is to raise, oh man, you are absolutely going to want to pay attention to the research we're unpacking today.
You know, our culture basically tells us that being the easy child is this massive compliment to our parenting skills, like it's treated as the ultimate goal. But psychology actually reveals a much darker reality. The research shows that children who are endlessly low maintenance and cooperative often grow up with a really dangerous psychological habit. They are actively learning to bury their own needs, to hide what they actually want or feel, entirely just to keep everyone else around them comfortable and happy.
Section 1. The easy child myth versus reality. To really wrap our heads around this dynamic, we've got to separate that comforting myth from the, well, sometimes pretty uncomfortable reality. On the outside, we see this perfect external illusion, right? A child who's always helpful, always quiet, literally never making a fuss. It looks like a wonderfully low-maintenance setup. But the internal reality, what is actually happening inside that kid's brain, is often a deep, paralyzing fear of disappointing you or causing friction. Imagine a kid who forces down a meal they absolutely hate, bite by agonizing bite, without making a single peep, just to avoid causing a tiny bit of friction at the dinner table. They aren't just being naturally chill, you guys, they are actively managing your emotions at the expense of their own.
Section 2. The compliance trap and signs of hidden feelings. This whole dynamic turns into what the research calls the compliance trap. This is where a child fundamentally mislearns that they only deserve love and attention when they are helpful and invisible. It's a trap of endless people-pleasing. So how do you actually spot it? Well, you've got to recognize the behavioral patterns. Are they hiding their anger or sadness when something genuinely upsetting happens? Do they avoid conflict at literally all costs, like maybe refusing to even pick a movie on family movie night because they're terrified of burdening everyone else's preferences? Do you notice them trying to quietly solve every single problem completely alone, acting absolutely terrified of being a bother? If these patterns sound familiar, your child isn't just easy, they might actually be stuck right in that compliance trap.
Section 3. The downward spiral of the easy child.
Listen, this isn't just some passing childhood phase. It actually escalates into a 4-step downward spiral that lays the groundwork for a very difficult adulthood. If we don't catch these signs early, these children grow into adults with deeply ingrained, super harmful habits. So let's break down exactly how this progression happens over time, step by step.
Okay, step 1 is emotional self-suppression. When a kid spends years hiding their anger, their frustration, or their sadness just to keep the peace, an incredibly damaging thing happens. It's not just that they're hiding feelings from you, their own internal emotional radar eventually just shuts down, completely. They grow so used to suppressing things that they actually lose the vital ability to even recognize their own needs. The real tragedy here is that they eventually start believing they simply don't have needs at all. And wow, that makes them highly vulnerable, especially as they enter those tricky teenage years.
Which leads directly into step 2, attracting manipulators. Since this child has grown up constantly scanning every room and every situation to figure out how they should behave to avoid conflict, they inadvertently turn into the perfect host for emotional vampires. Manipulators and toxic people, they are actively hunting for someone else to carry their heavy emotional weight. And the easy child, who's been trained since childhood never to say no, is perfectly conditioned to just step right up and take on that burden without a single complaint.
Then we hit step 3. To protect themselves from this constant drain, they develop hyper-independence as a sort of shield. They decide they're just going to solve absolutely every problem alone because they are utterly terrified of being seen as a burden. But think about it. What happens when you build walls so high that no one can help you? You just end up completely isolated. This shield totally backfires. It basically just makes it incredibly easy for others to take advantage of their strength, leaning on them heavily without ever offering an ounce of support in return.
In the dark ending to this lifelong pattern is step 4, the boundary awakening. After a lifetime of the compliance trap, of being manipulated, and of extreme hyper-independence, they hit a wall. Years of tolerating disrespect finally boil over, resulting in them suddenly and often aggressively cutting everyone off completely. Now for parents, this sudden cutoff can completely blindside the family. It looks like it came out of absolute nowhere, right? Like it's totally out of character. But the reality is, it's actually the inevitable result of 2 decades of suppressed needs finally erupting into a total system crash of their relationships.
All right, Section 4, Raising Self-Aware Children, the Parent's Toolkit.
We absolutely want to stop this spiral before it ever starts. As busy parents, we want to raise healthy, self-aware kids. So let's open up that parent's toolkit with some actionable solutions you can use right now. Since we know the easy child habitually suppresses negative feelings, you have to proactively ask them, are you feeling angry or sad right now? You've got to counter their built-in instinct to hide those difficult emotions by giving them explicit, safe permission to feel them out loud. And remember, it is absolutely crucial to ask this neutrally. No frustration, no judgment, so your child actually feels safe enough to give you an honest answer.
Next, because we learned they literally lose the ability to recognize their own needs, you must regularly prompt them with this exact question. What do you need right now? Don't assume you know, and whatever you do, do not let them just say nothing. Now, fair warning, this requires a ton of patience. Your kid might just sit there in silence for a few minutes because, honestly, they genuinely do not know the answer yet. Your job as a parent is to simply sit in that uncomfortable silence right there with them, actively helping them rebuild that psychological self-awareness step by step.
And to fight that dangerous hyper-independent shield we talked about, try offering this. Is it okay if we share this burden? Offer to help carry their problems so they slowly learn that needing your support does not make them a burden. This is so deeply important because you are actively modeling healthy adult relationships. Showing them how to share a burden right now is literally training them on how to have a healthy marriage or a strong partnership decades down the line. It teaches them that real, true relationships involve mutual support, not just struggling alone.
Ultimately, your goal here requires a pretty major mindset shift. We need to move away from praising compliance and quietness. Instead, we need to start celebrating a child who confidently voices their true needs. Let's be real for a second. A child confidently voicing messy, loud, or inconvenient needs is incredibly exhausting for a parent in the moment. It is so much harder than raising an quote-unquote easy child. But that messy honesty, that is the ultimate proof that you are raising a healthy, secure human being.
So the next time you find yourself praising how perfectly low maintenance your kid is being, just pause for a second and ask yourself, what is my easy child not telling me today? Take a moment, check in with them, and make absolutely sure their silence isn't actually a sign of struggle. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Now go ask those important questions.